something that's come up that has become very clear is that telling our truth is so important. And what I've come to see is that it's not as easy as it seems. Because behind telling our truth...
What do you mean by telling our truth? You mean our history, our inner world? What aspect of yourself you call it truth? Welcome to Life on Maui. I am Radhe.
And welcome to Life on Maui. I am Steve.
And we are live from PoliPoli State Park with a beautiful, cold, would you say slightly wintry feel?
Absolutely, and we're in the clouds.
Today we're going to talk about being authentic to ourselves, about speaking our truth. And to begin with that, Steve, what do we call truth in the context that we want to talk about?
Well, I think you used a very good word, Radhe, the word authentic. It really is being authentic or true to ourselves in any given moment where we're authentic with ourselves, that we're on our own behalf, that we're really taking care of ourselves first. And this is not selfishness, as I think has become clearer and clearer, that to do that which is on our own behalf is the most beneficial thing that we can ever do. And one aspect of this has to do with being able to speak our truth in the moment. That if for some reason, I guess different people might have different indicators of ways that they perceive it or feel about it. For me, it's a tightness. I can feel when I'm not being true to myself. I feel tightness in my stomach. I feel a tightness in my body. And that's an indicator. It's like, pay attention. What is it that you're not honoring right now? What is it that you're not speaking? What is it that you're not addressing? Because for so much of my childhood, I might have backed down. I might not have spoken my truth. I might have backed away from that. And that's shown up over the course of the years in different relationships and different situations. And it's become clearer and clearer to me, especially in the context of this beautiful current love relationship I have with you, Radhe, that how important it is to really be authentic, how important it is to really speak my truth in the moment with as much kindness as possible. Always, we should always try and be as kind as possible and as not blaming. That's a very important piece too. It's not about blame. It's expressing how we feel. It's not about the other person. It's not blaming somebody else. It's expressing how we feel. And I feel like to the extent that I'm able to do that, it frees up this wounded inner child and gives it, it's like it has confidence in the adult within me. It has confidence that you're going to take care of me. You're going to speak up. You're going to be on my behalf. You're going to do what's right by me. And I'll tell you, it feels so good to do that. Because within us, we all know intrinsically when we're honoring ourselves and when we're not. But we often don't pay attention. That's been my history. Sometimes I haven't paid attention, and there can really be dire consequences, both for ourselves and whomever we're in relationship with at the time, whether it's primary relationship, parental, boss, anything. I feel like it has to do with regarding what we feel and honoring it.
So let's dig a little more. There's a flow of different feelings that we experience day after day. And when we say speaking our truth, how do we discriminate? How do we sort what feelings or what things we call it truth and are worth expressing and worth sharing as being part of our authentic self, and what feelings we dismiss?
Yeah, you're right. In a nutshell, Radhe, of course, we don't want to sweat the small stuff. There are certain things that come up, and of course, we just let them pass. There are, however, indicators in the body when you feel a tightness in your stomach or you feel something shrinking inside of you. That is very clearly the inner child, the wanting attention.
Steve, so what's an example of what you're explaining?
An example is that that happened with you and I is that I wanted to go to Costco, and I called you on the phone and I said, I'd like to put some things in your refrigerator and freezer. And you said, no, it's too much trouble. There's no room. I don't want to da da da. And I could just feel that kind of knot. And in the past, I would have just let that go and maybe felt a little resentful, like, why is she making such a big deal out of this? And instead, what I did is I said, what's the big deal? It's no big deal. I'll just put the stuff in. What are you making a big deal out of it for? Again, seems like a small thing, but it gave voice to something in the moment where in the past I might have contracted, held it in, didn't want to make waves, didn't want to make a fuss out of something seemingly small, but there is no such thing as small, because see, that would have been the seed of a resentment. And it comes back around. Maybe the next time you would ask me to do something for you, I'd feel like, no, she didn't, you know? And it's like, that's the kind of thing when they build up in a relationship is toxic. So the more that we can catch those times that we feel contracted, that we feel like, oh, I don't want to say this, I want to keep things smooth. It feels so much better. It felt so much better to say what I said. And I tell you, my inner child rejoiced, and I slept very well that night. Describe what authentic is for you in those moments when because you're, I feel like I said, a teacher for me, because when you don't feel like doing something, you're very clear. So what is that for you?
Well, that is true, that being authentic for me it's been a cultivation. It's been a long cultivation. And as far as how do I assess, how do I know when I have to honor a feeling as part of my being authentic? Well, it's not the way you have it as a visceral feeling. My body is actually not involved. What happens for me is I have a very crystal clarity about not honoring the environment, not honoring people, not giving in to anything external. Most of the time I'm happy to do it. I'm a very peaceful person, so I'm happy to contribute peace to the environment. But there are times when I have a very clear feeling, understanding that today I am not part of the environment, that in spite of what's going around me, today I am just honoring myself, and the beach is not part of it. It's a very strong clarity that tells me, no, I will not pass this day this way. It's part of myself just being very authentic. Today is not a day for stretching. It's not a day for spreading myself thing. It's not even a day for the other person. It might be a clear understanding. Today, I'm just going to honor this particular feeling. Something else might be calling.
So I want to say that you haven't always been this way. There have been many times, I'll bet, in your life before when you've overrode those feelings and you've done what you thought somebody else wanted you to do, or what you thought might be good for somebody else. So this is a cultivation for you.
That's very true. I think all of us come a long way to really honor, first recognize what part of us is authentic and what part of us is not.
Yes.
And then from that place, honor the part that speaks very clearly, and respond from that place.
Yes.
And yes, many years ago, I would just honor feed the circumstances, or
Yes.
sometimes just completely be a rebel, which is also not the good side that you want to take.
No, but specifically what we're talking about is that there are times that you've overrode those feelings in the past, and isn't there always detriment from that?
Yes,
It's
it
always
is.
detrimental. So what I'm saying for myself right now is that I feel like, in one sense, we've all been raised to be good. You know, our parents, in one way or another, either through strictness or my mother through guilt. I mean, you know, there could be different ways. I think in your family it was through strictness.
Discipline, yeah.
Discipline. You know, in the Jewish tradition, guilt works very well, you know. And we're taught to be good.
Yeah.
And if we're not good, you know, it's like, oh my God.
And part of being good is holding back those feelings that need to be expressed. Some feelings that need to be expressed. Some feelings we can just let them go.
Yes, I think part of being good and part of wanting to maintain and have everything be nice sometimes can be at the expense of not being authentic. So this is something that I'm really learning at this stage in my life. Not that I haven't cultivated this before, but it's become more and more clear how important it is to speak our truth.
In your case, you appear to us as someone who's very outspoken. You clearly state your opinions, your thoughts, and looking from the outside, it might seem like you don't have that challenge. It seems like you express very freely whatever you feel, and you're not really given into the circumstances. So tell us how that outer perception relates to this speaking your truth.
Excellent question. Because I do think that most people I would appear to most people as somebody who speaks their mind,
Yes.
outspoken, so forth and so on. And there are other public examples of this, but I'll just speak for myself. That, yes, in most cases, it's true, and that's accurate. But when the risk is high, when I feel like the risk of loss is high, like in a intimate relationship, I think this is where it comes up for most people, is in intimate relationships. Or it could come up with children, it could come up with authority situations,
yeah.
like a boss-employee. The fear of loss comes in very strongly, like, oh my God, if I speak my truth, I'm going to lose something very important to me. That's the thing. That's the difference there. So I see that this really comes up for me more in the context of situations that are important to me. I don't even want to put quotation marks, that are important to me. Intimate relationship, especially someone like yourself who I consider the love of my life. So it's like, these are all examples of, yes, I think that for the most part I do speak my mind, but there are those places that I clearly contract, and it's a gut feeling. You know, it's like I feel like, oh, it's like something contracts. I can feel my stomach contracting. I can feel like a contraction in my body.
Would you say that's a good gauge to identify when is the right time to speak your truth?
I'd say for me that really is. Yeah.
Because we don't want to speak every single feeling we have, obviously.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that for you, it's more when this is a visceral feeling.
Yes.
That causes you feel contracted, and this is like a red flag.
It's a red flag. It's an indicator that something isn't right, that I'm not being authentic.
And the insight is this is what you need to voice. So can you give an example of how to assess these feelings for expression?
Well, I mean, I'm going to give an example in reverse, because I love to walk, and I love to walk at night. And this has become a very intimate time. You and I walk, we talk, we get ideas. And most of the time, you'll go for the walk.
Yes.
But there are times that very clearly, whether I'm disappointed or not, you'll say, no, Steve, it's not for me to do tonight. I need to go home. I need to take care of myself. I need to go home and rest. I need to go home and meditate. I need to be by myself. All of these different things are you being on your own behalf, being authentic to your feeling.
Yes.
And I may, in the moment, be left with "Aw," but then there's a rising up of feeling like, I'm glad you're taking care of yourself, because I know that the best way to have a successful relationship is with two people who are being authentic and being on their own behalf first.
Yes.
And not just doing that, but also speaking it to the other partner, like you do with me around the walk or the beach, or like I did in the moment around the Costco example.
Very good. And suppose this visceral feeling and the need for expression arises in a very adverse situation where you have an appointment, you have something very important happening, and now this is right here bothering you, but the environment is not supportive. So what do we do? Do we honor ourselves in that aspect of us that's authentic, or do we once again give in to the circumstances?
Again, a very good question, and I'm going to ask you too, but I think that sometimes it's very important in the moment to address something. I think it's very important. I mean, a very fond memory for me is when I was 33, had just had my second child, got into a pretty bad car accident, was in the hospital, and the doctor said something. I overheard him while I'm laying on the table, really in pain, saying, we might need to operate. And I sat up and I said, you are not going to do anything unless you consult me first. And I remember that to this day, the feeling of empowerment that came along with that, and how many people let doctors do whatever they want.
That's a very good example, yes.
And how much harm has come from letting doctors do whatever they want. And it's not just doctors, it's across the board. So sometimes it's very appropriate and needed in the moment, like in that moment for me to sit up and say, you're not touching me until you get my permission. Very strong. And it felt so good that all these years later, I can still feel it. And other times, it might be a situation where it can wait. And I think that that's the wisdom that we need to cultivate within ourselves. Check it out. It might not be appropriate to say in the moment, and it might be necessary to say in the moment.
Sometimes honoring yourself could actually have very serious consequences down the line. Instead of helping yourself, you're creating more more problems for yourself. So I like to make a quick assessment. So we're not coming as experts and saying that speaking your truth is it's the answer to everything. I think it's more like it is very good, very healthy for our inner world to honor our authentic, our self. But I think we also have to be a little careful and know the timing. Just speaking out, just in the moment, sometimes might actually create more problems. So there's a veil of wisdom that one has to learn or has to acquire somehow to know, okay, this is the time when I speak my truth as it is, and other times you might want to create a little gap, recognizing this might not be the moment, but I know I have to express this. And we had a video about innocence and forgiveness, on the subject of innocence and forgiveness, and we addressed these feelings of being wrong, feeling wrong. And in that video you shared the time in your life when you were bullied and how you held your feelings. You didn't speak up. Mm-hmm. You had feelings like people don't like me, and all this was held within, and it created a nightmare in your life. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about not speaking up in relation to that video and the insights and speaking our truth now?
Yeah, and the name of that video is I Was Never Wrong, Innocence and Forgiveness. It's on YouTube. And well, the way it correlates is that in those moments back then, I don't feel like I didn't know how to stand up in that moment for the child that I was. So you see, in life, there's always an opportunity to do that. Now's my opportunity, and now's our opportunity as we evolve to do things differently. And to me, that's what life is about. It's about this growth process of taking these opportunities. So now I am holding that child in such a more beautiful way, and it brings a lifetime of healing.
Yes, because now you can speak up on behalf of that child.
That's correct.
And the tensions that were built over the years begin to relax.
Exactly. That's true healing.
That's true healing.
That's true healing, yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Steve, for sharing your insights. On that note, we're going to end this episode.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Life on Maui. Please come back for future episodes that are going to be great. And until next time, aloha.
Aloha.
Call me crazy, but I'm never giving up my dreams. No matter how far away they seem, maybe crazy is the secret to my mad success. One by one.